Finishes and factions catching action.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Finishes and Factions, and this time we are at Stand and Deliver. This is NXT's version of WrestleMania on WrestleMania weekend from the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. So with this one we're going to jump in as Stand and Deliver did to the very first match, which was a North American Championship match between Ricky Saints and All Ego Ethan Page. This one was actually a really good match. I really enjoyed this, and it was a great start to the NXT card. Now, we have a selection of title matches going on this evening. This is the first one. And to jump straight into the action like Ricky Saints did, he went old school off the start onto Ethan Page and rebounds off the ropes with a clothesline taking him out. We then see Ethan Page hang Ricky Saints up on the top rope and hit a running slam onto the apron afterwards. There was quite a few big moves into this one, to be fair. So a lot of it was Ethan Page focusing on the lower back of Ricky Saints, who hurt that during the slam into the apron off the top rope. And it's a lot of side stuff. There's a suplex for a 2 count. He had a side slam for a 2 count. At one point, we even have Ethan Page telling the crowd to kiss his ass, which is always a nice one to have. Ricky Saints reverses a suplex into a rather nasty little neck breaker. Goes for a springboard move, but Ethan Page moves out of the way, and Ricky Saints goes up over onto the announce table and bounces through to where we have our commentary team sat. He then gets thrown back into the ring by Ethan Page. A big boot attempt goes off, and then we end up with Ethan Page locking in a Boston Crab onto the lower, trying to seriously work at the lower back of Ricky Saints. He uses the bottom rope to break the Boston Crab. We get a few punches exchanged, and Ethan Page then kicks Ricky Saints in the lower of the back. Like I say, Ethan Page is definitely pushing a lot towards this lower back that Ricky Saints had hurt during the start of this match, and you can tell he's struggling a little bit. His confidence has been knocked. He does manage to get himself out of an ego's edge and lands a few half-decent shots. There's another opportunity for Ethan Page to try again. He throws Ricky Saints on the top rope, sending him flying out of the ring. Just kind of basically picks him up and just drops him on the rope, like lets the rope do all the work. Bounces him halfway across the outside. Of which Ricky Saints, when he comes back into the ring, replies with a tornado DDT and a spine buster. A few minutes later, followed by a 2 count of a Michinuki kick. The crowd are chanting Tony fumbled. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think Ricky Saints' debut into NXT has been anything as what it could have been with the hype that he had around him. And the whole thing felt quite lackluster, even to them kind of like just throwing him out on that one episode of NXT. I want to say it was the last pay-per-view. I think it was Roadblock where they threw him out at the end to just be like, hey, I'm here, and the guys are still setting up the cage, so I'm just going to talk for a few minutes to keep everyone entertained. We then ended up with Ethan Page getting a power slam and a 2 count. Ricky Saints hits a Hurricane Rana style neck breaker, which was really, really nice. I really enjoyed watching this. We see Ricky Saints go up top. Ethan Page goes up as well. Ethan Page ends up with Ricky Saints on his shoulders, and Ricky reverses it into a power bomb for a 2 count. He basically drops himself over the front and picks him up and drops him, which was beautiful. So Ethan Page hits the confidence breaker and ego's edge for a 2 count. Ricky Saints replies with a spear and a Rochambeau for the 3 count, which means that the revolution continues. Ricky Saints retains his North American title, and we end up with Ethan Page going back to the queue for his shot at that one. We move into a recap of what we had from SmackDown last night, which was between Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. Basically, just a recap of their story from the start to finish. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But we'll see how that goes. So we go from that VT into our second match of the evening, which is always a fun one because our second match of the evening is for our tag team titles. This is the challengers Hank and Tank versus Fraxium. Obviously, Hank and Tank won that gauntlet match on last week's NXT to be able to get here. And to be fair, this match had in everything that we needed it to. I wanted it to, and I really enjoyed watching this match. There was a lot of things to it that were really fun to do and really good to watch. So Axiom and Hank started. There was a sweet little double team with Nathan Fraser running the ropes very quickly. Nathan Fraser can't half get some speed on those ropes. I'll tell you, it's mental the sort of ability that guy has when it comes to just running those ropes. But we get there. There's a Hank and Tank with a double team bulldog on Nathan Fraser from with a double team. Sorry, there was a bulldog onto Nathan Fraser from Hank and a senton from Tank as well onto Nathan Fraser. Nathan Fraser manages to hit Hank with a DDT, whilst Axiom dropkicks Tank. I would say you're going to get very confused with a lot of this. I was just as confused watching this purely for the fact that there was just so much going on. So much of this match, it was insane. It really was a great match. Axiom get a 2 count on Hank and then lock in a sleeper hold. Hank drops Axiom with a clothesline, gets caught by Nathan Fraser with a double axe handle. And then we have a massive series of moves finished with a standing shooting star by Nathan Fraser for a 2 count. Nathan Fraser then locks in the rear naked choke hold, but Hank muscles himself out. Axiom tries again and rolls him through into an armbar and then a triangle submission hold. Does not get anything from this. We then get Axiom hold Hank in an octopus hold, but he breaks out and slams Axiom on the mat while Tank is on the outside busy hyping everyone up. And to be fair, he didn't really need to be doing that. It was definitely a match where the hype itself was already there. Just the extra little bit did help. We then move into Hank throwing Axiom in the ring and hitting a big splash while he runs into the corner, jumps up and shoulder tackles both of them into the midair. He then manages to pull a fisherman suplex into a spine buster for a 2 count, which was really nicely done. Then Nathan Fraser ended up with a crucifix cover and a 2 count. So at this point, it was just 2 count after 2 count after 2 count after 2 count. There was so many of them going on. Nathan Fraser throws Axiom over the top ropes and ends up hurricane Rana-ing Hank, who then throws him in, ends up with that Hurricane Rana throwing Hank into Tank, and Axiom with hits a frog splash, and Nathan Fraser hits a 450 splash for a 2 count on Tank. We then see Axiom take Tank on the outside. Hank throws Nathan Fraser into the corner and hits a sit-down inverted power slam. As Nathan Fraser on Nathan Fraser as Axiom breaks up the count at 2. Tank throws Axiom out and Hank goes up top. Nathan Fraser goes up to meet him and gets pushed back down, and Hank hits a crossbody. Tank drops Hank onto Nathan Fraser for a 2 count and basically power slams his buddy into his opponent. Again, they're using these 2 big guys are using everything they kind of have to be able to give themselves the advantage in this point. And it was so sort of close, between who actually had the advantage for a lot of this match. A lot of this match, I kind of generally thought it was going to end up being an interference and a no disqualification. but we do end up watching Fraxium get hit a high-low for a 2 count, and the move, like, it's mental, the speed and the agility those two guys have got. But this one does end up finishing with Nathan Fraser going up top and missing as Hank hits a boss man slam on him while Tank takes out Axiom, which means that Hank and Tank are crowned the new NXT Tag Team Champions. And Hank and Tank offer their hands to Axiom in the ring, and or to Fraxium, and Axiom kicks the hand away and pulls him in for a hug. And it's actually quite a nice little moment. So we have 1 retention so far and a new set of champions in Hank and Tank with the NXT Tag Team titles, which I must admit I did not see coming, but I'm very much a fan of this. I've been enjoying watching Hank and Tank for the last few weeks. I thought their gauntlet match last week was amazing, and the fact that, you know, at one point Hank ate a Spanish fly onto the announce table, does not move for a long time, and then pops back up to help Tank win was incredible. If you didn't get an opportunity to watch this match, or you're not really a big fan of NXT, but you thought, Stand and Deliver, I'll give the podcast episode a listen and see what happens. Go and watch the episode. It was incredible. It was a mental episode, and so we're 2 matches in, and this was one of the, I remember messaging Adam going, holy shit, like, you need to hurry up and watch this. I need to be able to talk about this with someone. And it was mental. I loved it. But we will move on from there into a slight recap of Tiffy Stratton and Charlotte Flair and their story from the start. And then we move backstage with Sarah Schreiber talking to one half of the magician team, Penn and Teller. She's talking to Penn about the magic, and he says, you know, some people don't like magic and believe that it's not real. And then we see Lexis King coming in saying it's a ruse, it's all smoke and mirrors, and that, you know, Lexis King is an intellectual and it's the realest thing you ever see. And Penn says to him, well, you know, well let's see what happens then. So he gets Lexis King to put his Heritage Cup inside this massive cage. So they'll cover it up, make it, you know, so no one can see it, the sun doesn't get to it, doesn't fade it, keep it nice and clean, you know. And Lexis King's like, yeah, you know, I spend a lot of time polishing this. We'll do that. That's a good idea. And so they cover it up, and then when they open the cage back up, the Heritage Cup is not there, but we see other half of this magical duo, Teller, in a Jey Uso shirt, saying yeet, which was definitely an interesting one, and poor Lexis King was left wondering where his trophy had gone. He has managed to lose that Heritage Cup, and that is not going to go down well with Shawn Michaels and the rest of the team. I mean, I think I'd be pissed if I was someone's boss and they come to me saying, boss, I've lost this, and you went, well, what? How can you lose that? But, you know, it's one of those, and it is what it is. Anyway, we will jump into our next match. Now, our next match is a ladder match. It's a 6-woman ladder match for the Women's North American Championship, recently vacated by Stephanie Vaquer. So we, in this match, have Thea Hale, Lola Vice, Izzy Dame, Kalani Jordan, Zarya, and Saruka. Now, Saruka is going to be feeling a little bit more than the rest of them at this point, because we are informed that she won at the Speed event previous night. And we basically start off with all the women kind of going for each other and scattering out, and we end up with Kalani Jordan being the last one in the ring. And then it ends up being Kalani Jordan and Saruka in the ring, while the other women create pure chaos on the outside. Now, Izzy Dame takes Solruka out with a ladder into the steel steps, and Solruka and Kalani Jordan are playing tug of war over a ladder on the a little bit later on the inside. We then see Solruka set the ladder up and start climbing, but Thea Hale pulls her down and hits a DDT so she can on Solruka so she can start climbing up. We then end up having Lola Vice pulling her down and start climbing. Kalani Jordan pulls her down and starts climbing. Thea and Lola Vice team up to take down Kalani Jordan. Zarya hits a double spear, and then follows that one up by another spear onto Izzy Dame, while Solruka knocked over the ladder. I mean, this ladder at this point is pretty fucked up. It's warped, it's bent, it's going nowhere, but Zarya decides to use it as a weapon anyway and starts spinning it around, taking out everyone apart from Izzy Dame and Solruka. Izzy Dame then dropkicks her down, picks her up into a suplex, but Zarya was not going to let that happen, reverses it, and then Izzy Dame reverses that attack onto a suplex on top of the ladder. We then see Kalani Jordan landing a Mystic Leg Drop on top of Lola Vice's neck, who is hung up on the ropes, and Kalani Jordan clears the house on the apron and a moonsault onto the last two standing, which are Thea Hale and Solruka. Now, this match was just chaos, and I did my best to try and keep up with it, but we are going to start getting to a point where my notes don't make a lot of sense, and I can't even tell you why. It was just a little bit of a pain to be able to keep up with. From a fan's perspective, it was incredible, but from a podcaster perspective, it was definitely a difficult one to try and keep hold of. So after the Mystic Med Drop and the moonsault onto Thea Hale and Solruka, we see Izzy Dame throw Kalani Jordan around and goes to suplex onto a ladder, but Kalani Jordan reverses it into a backdrop onto the ladder, as to which she then hits a split leg moonsault on to Izzy Dame, and then picks up the ladder and starts climbing up. Lola Vice catches up and they start fighting at the top of it as Kalani Jordan gets knocked off, and Lola Vice gets her hands on the title but just can't seem to grab hold of it enough to be able to pull it off the bar holding it above the ring. Lola Vice pops a sleeper hold on Solruka and starts climbing up, but Thea Hale pulls her down, and we see Lola Vice running hip toss into the corner. Izzy Dame pulls her back off the ladder after another climbing attempt, but Lola Vice comes out on top of that sort of engagement, but Kalani Jordan does eventually pull her down before she gets back up, and Solruka tries a power bomb, and Lola Vice hits a back fist into the ladder, and Izzy Dame then drops Lola Vice with the next, I think it was a kick next. Slowly followed up by a choke slam on Kalani Jordan by Izzy Dame and a sit-down powerbomb on Solruka off the ladder. Izzy Dame then starts climbing. Thea Hale catches up to her and gets pushed back. Thea pushes the ladder over and lands a headbutt on Izzy Dame. I mean, these women were throwing everything at it. We had all sorts of finishers, signature moves, big moves, last ditched efforts, and it just keeps going and going. At this point, we're only sort of like halfway through the match. So we end up with Thea Hale setting up another ladder. Kalani Jordan runs at her and ends up in a fisherman suplex into the ladder, which then gets knocked over. Thea Hale sets it back up in the center and starts climbing up. Again, she has her hands on the title but can't quite pull it, and Izzy Dame pulls the ladder away out from underneath her. The title kind of pushes the ladder to one way, but not to push it over, but just slides it through the ring, and the title then comes out of her grasp. And we end up seeing Thea Hale lock in a Chimera lock on top, and it basically ends up with Izzy Dame and the Culling having a little bit of support from the Culling as they come out to ringside. They don't actually interfere at this point, but they are definitely just there as a distraction technique. Zarya tosses the ladder out of the ring with Thea Hale on it, and they end up taking out the Culling with that. She basically just tipped it over with Thea Hale stood on top of it, and that tipped her down, and then she could literally just grab it and pull it back up, be able to use the ladder to start climbing and going up. Kalani Jordan takes her off the ladder and starts hitting Zarya with a ladder while Saruka saves her tag partner. Saruka and Kalani Jordan start fighting with a ladder while Zarya starts to climb up, and we end up with one ladder constructed in the middle and another ladder split between the rope and the rungs on the other ladder in like a table style position. And we basically end up seeing the guys fighting on the ladder, and Zarya backdrops Lola Vice onto the ladder, and then Kalani Jordan lands on Lola Vice on the ladder with a frog splash. That ladder did not give way though, and Kalani Jordan bounced off. She didn't hit it cleanly, she bounced, and it looked like she'd actually really quite hurt herself here, which was an interesting one. We then see Kalani Jordan go up, and Saruka springboards up onto the ladder, and both can reach the title, but Saruka gets rocked by a Kalani Jordan kick, and Zarya pulls Kalani Jordan off the ladder and throws her onto the Culling ringside, and it's just the tag teammates left. We have Saruka and Zarya, the tag team of Zaruka, busy sort of just standing tall in the middle of the ring. It seems to be a bit of a slugfest at the top of the ladder from the two of them, and it's a headbutt from Zarya that makes them both slide down to the point where Saruka kicks Zarya off the ladder and Izzy Dame comes and grabs her foot. We end up seeing Saruka hit a soul snatcher on Izzy Dame from halfway up the ladder, and then another one onto Thea Hale while she goes up to the top and claims the title, which makes Saruka the new Women's North American Champion, which means I don't know what that means for her tag team with Zarya, but at some point we could see both of those two in a tag match too, and it could be a case of we see Saruka with a double title as a single and a tag team specialist. I really enjoyed this match. It was very, very flowing. I don't feel that I've given it the justice I need to, but it was an incredible match, and if you get an opportunity to watch it again, go ahead and do it. It is really, really, really good. After we move from that incredible Women's North American Championship match, we are shown a Backlash VT. Backlash this year is being held in St. Louis, Missouri, which is going to be a fun event, and we get to deal with all the breakdowns from these WrestleMania matches, which we'll be bringing to you in the next day or two once we've finished recording and editing them as we speak. We then move on to find out that Gigi Doland and Tatum Paxton earned a chance to have their tag title matches, and we see them backstage with Sarah Schreiber, where they say they're really, really looking forward to taking on the tag champions, whether it be Lyra Valkyria and Bayley or Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Which we will find out following their match at WrestleMania, to which one they find. We then get a little D'Angelo family VT about the members and their history, a little Dark State VT showing us, what they've been doing since they arrived in NXT, which is basically just beating up as many people as they possibly can, which is always interesting. So we then move from there into a history of John Cena VT. While that kind of starting off from the ruthless aggression all the way through to his final WrestleMania appearance, which we have on Sunday evening, I believe it is, to finish off the WrestleMania weekend. Our next match is one of the first, or one of the very few non-title matches on this card, and that is the D'Angelo family versus Dark State. Now, before Dark State get into the ring, like we've had with the first two matches, it seems to be a common theme on the Stand and Deliver, but the D'Angelo family run at them and meet them on the ramp. We see Dark State surround Tony D'Angelo in the center of the ring, and he goes to town. It's a double team on Cutler James, and the bell finally rings. Luca Crucifino taking out Dark State until Osiris takes him out off the apron, and Dion Lennox spears Luca Crucifino from the announce table to the apron and back again, and then throws Luca Crucifino into the steel girders that make up the ring. Dark State really came into this with no intentions of taking it easy on the D'Angelo family. They want to cause as much pain as they possibly can. And to be fair, we can't blame them. They've come in here for that exact reason. They just want to come and kick ass, and I'm very much enjoying what they've been doing so far. So it's been an interesting one. We see Osiris throwing Luca Crucifino across the ring. Luca Crucifino is getting absolutely destroyed by Dark State. It's been easy for them to be able to get him in the positions they have. Saquon Sugars is fast, and Luca Crucifino powers through a move into a powerbomb. Tony D'Angelo wants back in, but he drops down off the apron to take out Cutler James, who's creeping up on Stacks, and Stacks goes in instead and starts laying the Stacketh down. You'll have to excuse that one. That was a rather bad pun, but could not be resisted. Stacks manages to take out Saquon Sugars and on the outside, and Osiris takes him out and basically spears him into the ring, and then throws him in. After throwing him into timekeeping, there's just a lot of very brutal power moves going on here, and Dark State have really sort of just taken it up a notch here. We see Stacks taking a beating from Dion Lennox after he eats a spine buster, and then eats a 2 count for it. Tony D'Angelo looks like he's leaving Stacks to learn a lesson here after he jumps the tag, and Stacks drops Saquon Sugars with a massive running knee. To the point where Tony D'Angelo gets into the ring, he does clear house. There's a couple of big power slams, a spine buster, a suplex on Saquon Sugars. And Osiris. Dion Lennox breaks up the 2 count on this that Luca Crucifino has locked in. Luca Crucifino then suplexes Saquon Sugars and himself out of the ring as he gets dragged over too. These were big bombs that were being hit, which was really mental. Dion Lennox hits a jackhammer on Tony D'Angelo for a 2 count. There's a triple team on Tony D'Angelo, and Stacks and Luca Crucifino both jump in at 2 to save them. There is then a hands down brawl. It's 3v3. They're staring each other down in the ring, and as soon as they kind of sort of keep looking each other down, we know it's going off, and off it goes. And it goes pretty much off the way we'd expect it, to be fair. Where all 6 of them, just stood in the middle of the ring, just throwing absolute bombs. Luca Crucifino runs into the turnbuckle, gets run into a turnbuckle by Cutler James. Rizzo hits him with a crossbody off the outside, and Tony D'Angelo gets a 2 count on Osiris. So lots and lots and lots of near falls in this match. Lots of epic moments. So Stacks comes back into the ring with a crowbar and offers it to Tony D'Angelo, who basically says, "Nah, I don't need that. We're going to do this the right way." And it looked like Stacks was going to hit Tony with the crossbar when Tony got grabbed by a member of a Dark State, but it did not happen, and we ended up seeing Stacks give the crowbar back to the referee, and then basically turning around and sticking his foot square into the bollocks of Tony D'Angelo. Which, yeah, no. This was definitely not the way it was going to go. After that kick, Dark State put in their final nail of the coffin with that sort of pop-up power slam that they initiate, and that ended up with Dark State hitting the 1, 2, 3 on Tony D'Angelo, and not only did the D'Angelo family lose this match, they also lost Stacks in the process. Now that could be a big thing for the D'Angelo family, and that is probably gonna shock. Well, it did shock the entire NXT universe when it happened. We will find out on Tuesday, though, what happens more with that one. We then get a little backstage segment with Sarah Schreiber talking to Hank and Tank about how happy they are to finally have had their hands on Tag Team Gold, and both Hank and Tank are absolutely ecstatic, saying that, they've been working so hard trying to learn the best they can and trying to get better, that they're amazed they've finally managed to get their hands on, those tag team titles, and it was a hell of a match against Fraxium, and they really, really enjoyed themselves, and it's going to be, for me, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because I did not expect this to happen, but I did very much enjoy watching it happen. The opening to this pay-per-view was incredible. It's not pay-per-view anymore, is it? It's a PLE, but yeah, it was absolutely dozy. I loved it. We then end up with our next match, which is for the NXT Women's title. This is a fatal 4-way. And yeah, we are getting there. So this one was a fatal 4-way between Jordan Grace, Jada Parker, Stephanie Baker, and Julia. And we have a little bit of information about each person that comes into the ring. So this is Julia's 6th career NXT Championship match, and her first match since she lost her title to Stephanie Baker at Roadblock. This is Jada Parker's third NXT Championship match, and her last match was a no contest against Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace is also in this match, and she is a 3-time TNA Knockouts champion, and so far, in her time in NXT, she has not been pinned yet. But this is her first NXT title match, and anything could happen. And then finally, our champion, Stephanie Baker. She spent 39 days as the NXT Women's Champion, and she made history at Roadblock by becoming the first double NXT champion in singles titles, when she held both the North American title that she took from Fallon Henley and the women's NXT title that she beat Julia for. So, been some pretty impressive matches so far, and we are going to jump into this one. And it starts off with Jordan Grace throwing Stephanie out of the ring as Julia throws out Jada Parker. Jada Parker then gets a 2 count on Julia. We then see a lot of Stephanie Vaquer and Julia teaming up to take out Jada Parker. We end up seeing Stephanie Vaquer rolling Julia up for no count, and they're both very much looking at each other like, okay, this is the way it gonna go. We used to be friends, and now we're not. And if that's the way you want to play this, then that's fine. So Stephanie Vaquer and Julia take down Jordan Grace and get in a hit to the face. Jada Parker pulls Julia out of the ring, and Jordan Grace takes out Jada Parker's legs and runs through a clothesline attempt, like completely no-sells it. There is no way in hell that clothesline attempt was being sold, and Jordan Grace just shrugged it off like it was a weak-wristed, limped security guard trying to hold her back, and it did not work. We had another roll-up from Stephanie Vaquer on Jordan Grace for 2, and then she rolls around Jordan Grace for a 2 count roll-up a third time, and then we end up with a back suplex on Jordan Grace, while Jada Parker breaks it up and throws Stephanie Vaquer out of the ring, which means we get a little bit of action between Jada Parker and Jordan Grace, and they both make a move up on Julia, but Julia kicks Jada Parker in the face instead, with Julia then teeing off on Jada Parker and getting in a running knee for a 2 count. Jada Parker then slapped the absolute lips off the face of Stephanie Vaquer, and Stephanie Vaquer and Julia set up a superplex, and Jordan Grace ends up sneaking underneath both Julia and Stephanie, while Jada Parker hits the blockbuster off the top rope, dropping all 3 women. And to be fair, I think Jada Parker ate more of her own blockbuster than the rest of them did, because she was also seemed to be struggling to get back up off of the floor. Jordan Grace at this point takes it as an opportunity to try and get a cheeky cover in and gets a 2 count off all 3 women lying on the floor. Wasn't quite enough to try and finish it, and I don't think they were going to give this match to Jordan Grace, considering how long she's been in the promotion. I can't really see her giving her the promotion's biggest title in her first proper pay-per-view. But we have seen stranger things happen in the WWE universe, and I'm sure over the course of WrestleMania weekend we will see some more strange things happen. So this match goes on, and my list of moves just gets bigger and bigger, with Julia hitting a running knee on Stephanie Vaquer and then jumping up for a head scissors and Jada Parker. Jordan Grace hits a German suplex with a Northern Lights twist on Jada Parker and Julia. Jada Parker triple stacks everyone in the corner and then jumps up to bottom drop through them. And then a sit-down powerbomb on Stephanie Vaquer for 2. We end up with Jordan Grace in an ankle hold by Jada Parker, who gets put in an octopus hold by Julia, while Stephanie Vaquer locked in a crossface arched into Jordan Grace in a triple submission. We then see Stephanie Vaquer hit that dangerous dragon screw knee drag on Julia for a 2 count, and a devil's kiss on both Julia and Jada Parker, and a suplex and a devil's kiss on Jordan Grace. Julia counters the SVB for a backslide for a 2 count, and then throws Stephanie Vaquer out the ring, and Jordan Grace hits a backface and goes beast mode, while Jada Parker hits hypnotic. Julia rolls up Jada Parker for a 2 count, and then Stephanie Vaquer hits spinal tap and pins on Julia, and then hits an SVB on Jada Parker for the 1, 2, 3 to retain the Women's NXT Championship. I mean, this was an incredible match. I don't think I've done it as much justice as I possibly could have, but it was an incredible, incredible match. And I really do not think that the women who participated in this event are going to be able to give it any more than they already have. And it was a fantastic, fantastic match. We then move into a little backstage segment where we've got Lexis King still looking for his Heritage Cup. And we see Stax leaving the building with Izzy Dame and Luca Crucifino chasing after him, saying, what are you doing, man? What happened? At which point Stax says, look, I'll tell you more on Tuesday. Keep your phone close. See you later. So we've got a lot of stuff coming on Tuesday for that section, but all we have left to come for tonight is our main event of the evening, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is a triple threat for the men's NXT Championship. So, ladies and gentlemen, here you have it, the triple threat for the NXT World Championship between Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and Oba Femi, who is the current title holder. So we are informed into this one that Oba Femi has never lost a triple threat match and actually won his title in a triple threat match between Eddie Thorpe and Trick Williams. We're told that Trick Williams is a two-time NXT title holder and is fourth time challenging for the title. And this time last year, he beat Carmelo Hayes, who was this year's Andre the Giant Battle Royale winner. So, Carmelo Hayes has gone a long way from challenging for the NXT title to being a Andre the Giant Battle Royale winner. And all of us at Finishers and Factions wish Carmelo Hayes the best in his push with that. Hoping that he gets one, because of course the last handful of people to win the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial Royale haven't actually done too much. Not many of them from the last 10 years are left in the company. So Javon Evans is seeking to become the youngest ever NXT WWE champion at 20 years of age. And Oba Femi has been champion for 102 days at the time of this match. Now, at the start of the match, both Oba Femi and Trick Williams both go for Javon Evans, but he moves out the way, and Javon Evans is all over both of them. Oba Femi takes down Trick Williams and Javon Evans with a double clothesline. Javon Evans takes Oba Femi out of the ring, and Trick Williams and Javon Evans go for it. We see Javon Evans baseball slide Oba Femi as he tries to get back in the ring, and then go back to roll up Trick Williams for a 2 count. He starts off the original, the young OG gets bouncy very quickly, and it only gets more and increasingly prolific as he comes through the match. We do see Javon Evans counter a Trick Williams uppercut into a backslide that goes for a 2 count. Both decide to try a big boot and drop each other in the middle of the ring, and both bring themselves back up with a kip up. Oba Femi then Samoan drops both of them, and afterwards, using Javon Evans as a battering ram, we get Oba Femi perform a gut buster on Trick Williams for a 2 count after he got his knees up for a splash off the top rope by Trick Williams. Oba Femi gets Trick Williams up into a powerbomb position, and Javon Evans jumps over the top of the two of them, drops Trick Williams and gets a roll up on him. Drops Trick Williams, and Oba Femi gets the roll up on Trick Williams. He then chops Trick again, and Trick drops back down. Trick Williams goes on for a 2 count on Javon Evans. We then get Trick Williams pop a Hurricane Rana on Oba Femi and a faceplant, and he gets Javon Evans in a 2 count. A neck breaker is hit on Oba Femi from Trick Williams as he backs away from Javon Evans, and then Trick Williams gets a 2 count on Javon Evans, and Oba Femi breaks it up. So there's just an awful lot of power plays. There's, Javon Evans and Trick Williams are trying to use their agility to get around him. Oba Femi is not having any of it. Javon Evans super kicks Oba Femi, and Trick Williams drops Javon Evans, and then Oba Femi hits a double spine buster on both men. Trick Williams gets a 2 count roll up on Oba Femi, and Javon Evans gets a 2 count roll up on Trick Williams, and then Javon Evans goes over Oba Femi to knock Trick Williams back into the mat. This was a very, very intense match. We see Javon Evans hit cutters on Oba Femi as reversals. Oba Femi kicks out of a roll up and goes for a springboard. Oba Femi, as Javon Evans goes for the springboard, Oba Femi catches him, and Javon Evans hits a suplex neck breaker for 2. This all eventually ends up with Trick Williams putting Oba Femi through the announce table with a rock bottom after Oba Femi has hit a fall from grace on Javon Evans, but gets countered and thrown into the barricade before being dumped into timekeeping. Javon Evans takes some serious punishment in this. He gets battered off everything. At one point, the Oba Femi grabs hold of the referee, trying to stop him from getting back in for a count. And after he'd been taken out by Trick Williams on the outside, and the ref kicks Oba Femi in the face, slides back into the ring to get a 2 count. We then end up with Oba Femi and Trick Williams throwing bombs in the middle of the ring, and Javon Evans takes them both out with a double springboard cutter. He goes for a moonsault on Oba Femi as Trick Williams hits trick shot on Javon Evans, and then Oba Femi hits fall from grace onto Javon Evans, and then fall from grace on to Trick Williams, and a second fall from grace onto Javon Evans for Oba Femi to get the 3 count to retain his NXT title, and for us to finish NXT the same way as we started it, with the ruler ruling the roost. And with that is the end of our Stand and Deliver coverage. I will be back with Adam covering WrestleMania Night 1 very, very soon. But until then, guys, remember to always follow the buzzards.